The land was flat and dry, stretching out forever in every direction. It was the kind of place where you could ride for hours and see nothing but dirt, scruffy bush, and a big, empty sky. The sun was low, looking grumpy, and it made long shadows behind the rocks. The air smelled dusty, like old clothes left in the heat. The wind kept blowing little clouds of dirt that stung your eyes and never really stopped. Eli Mercer was on his horse, staring ahead with a blank look. His boots were snug in the stirrups, and he held the reins loosely in his left hand. His right hand stayed close to the rifle tied by his leg. He'd been riding since the sun came up, not chasing anything or running away, just moving like he'd done for years. He didn't carry much, just a bedroll, a tin cup, and some dried meat wrapped in cloth. The stuff a guy takes when he doesn't plan to stick around anywhere. He didn't trust the ground he rode on or the people he might meet. Eli had fought in the Confederate Army when he was just a kid. He didn't want to, but back home, you didn't say no to guys with guns and orders. He made it through the war, lost a couple of fingers, got a long scar across his face, and something cold settled in his eyes, deeper than just memories. After the war ended, he wandered, did some bounty hunting for a while, but quit when it started feeling like he was hunting himself. Now, he didn't believe in much. No country, no flag, just a person's word. If that even meant anything anymore. That evening, his horse slowed down on its own. Eli sat up taller. The horse's ears twitched, its head turning toward a clump of bushes a little way off. It wasn't the wind moving them, it was quick, like something alive was hiding. Eli stopped the horse and got off without a word. His back stayed stiff as he grabbed his rifle. Years of habit kept his hand steady. He walked toward the bushes, slow and careful. His boots crunched on the dry ground. He didn't hurry, just scanned the bushes for a gun barrel, or maybe an animal's tail. Then he saw her, crouched low, one leg twisted under her, with dried blood on her calf. She was missing a shoe on one foot, and the other had an old moccasin falling apart. Her deerskin dress was torn and dirty, barely covering her knees. Her arms shook, but her eyes didn't waver. They locked onto him. She didn't scream or beg. She just raised her hands slowly, palms out, and said in a rough, dry voice, "Please don't shoot me." After a moment, she added, "If you don't, I'll give you a child." Eli didn't move. His heart didn't speed up. It just tightened. He stared at her, taking her in. She looked Apache, with a tattoo on her wrist, maybe in her mid-20s, skinny, dirty, bruised, but not broken. She sat with pride, even half hidden in the bushes. Her words weren't flirty. They were empty, like something a woman says when she's had to say worse before. Eli kept the rifle aimed at her, not because he wanted to shoot, but because he'd learned that pausing could get you killed. She didn't blink, just stayed still, waiting. He could have left her there, backed away, and kept riding west. She wasn't his problem, but the way she looked at him, like she was ready to die and okay with it stuck in his chest. He lowered the rifle. She barely flinched. He crouched down, not too close, and pulled a tin flask from his coat. He didn't toss it, just set it on the ground between them, then stepped back 3 steps and waited. She looked at him, then the flask. Her hands shook again. She crawled forward slowly, grabbed it, and took small sips, just enough to wet her throat. Her breathing got a little easier. She wiped her mouth with her hand. Eli didn't say anything, just walked back to his horse. The sun was lower now, painting the land a pale red. He got back on, turned the horse a bit, looked at her once, and nodded with his chin. She didn't move right away. He waited. The wind pushed her dress against her legs and whipped her braid across her face. Finally, she stood up, wincing on her hurt ankle, and limped after him, one step at a time. No words, no trust, just instinct. They didn't go far. Half a mile down, near a flat rock shelf, Eli set up camp. Nothing fancy, just like the 100 others he'd made a small fire pit, some brush for fuel, one warm blanket, and a beat-up skillet. He tied the horse, gathered twigs, and lit a fire. She stayed back, standing on one foot, arms crossed, watching him like she thought he might turn and hit her. He took out some jerky, put a piece on a rock by the fire, and stepped back. She didn't move until he sat down across from her, and even then, she only grabbed it when he looked away. The silence wasn't heavy, just full. There wasn't anything to say that would change what they'd been through. The fire crackled, and he passed her the canteen. She drank, wiped her hands on her dress, slow and careful. He noticed 3 small scars on her shoulder, like someone tried to burn a mark on her, but gave up. Night came, dry and heavy. Coyotes howled far off. She didn't lie near the fire. She stayed at the edge, half sitting, knees up, arms wrapped around them. Her eyes stayed open long after his closed. Eli lay back on his bedroll, head on the saddle, rifle by his side. He never slept deeply. In the dark, he thought about what she'd said. If you don't, I'll give you a child. It wasn't a threat or a deal, just something left from too much hurt, like she didn't know how else to ask to live. He didn't feel sorry for her. That wasn't right. But something about her made him stay when he'd spent years leaving. She hadn't run, and neither had he. Morning came slowly, lighting the red cliffs with a soft glow. The air was still and cold, and ash from the fire curled up in thin wisps before fading. Eli woke before dawn, like always. No dreams, no noise, just waking up like it was a job. He sat up, rolled his neck, and checked his rifle. Nothing moved out there, just the rising light. She was still there, curled against a rock, arms around herself, chin tucked low. She probably hadn't slept much. Her eyes opened the second he moved. He didn't talk, just stood, stretched his legs, and started gathering dry grass to restart the fire. He saw how she gripped her elbows, how her body twitched at every snapping twig. It wasn't fear of him. Not exactly, more like fear from something old, something already done. When the fire was going, he boiled water, added some ground corn, and made thin mush. It wasn't much, but it was warm. He didn't ask if she was hungry, just set a tin cup of it near her on a rock and stepped back. She waited until he turned to fix the saddle, then ate quickly, scraping every bit from the cup with her finger. He heard but didn't look. He glanced at her ankle, swollen purple along the bone. She wouldn't get far if she tried to run, but she didn't seem like she would. She sat with her arms tight, eyes scanning the ridges, watching everything. Finally, he said, "What's your name?" She looked at him like it might be a trick, then said, "Asha." He nodded. "I'm Eli." She didn't say his name back. He put out the fire and packed the cooking tin. The day was already heating up, and they needed to move before the sun got too high. He didn't ask if she wanted to come or give orders. He got off the horse, looked back, and waited. She stood slowly, limping hard on her bad foot, but didn't ask for help. He saw her bite her cheek to keep from making a sound. He didn't offer his hand, just nodded toward the saddle. "You ride. I'll walk." She paused, then climbed up stiffly, holding the saddle tight. He handed her the reins, loosened her lap. She didn't say thanks. They headed west, Eli walking, Asha silent on the horse. The land opened up, scrub turned to rock, rock to clay. By mid-morning, Eli found a dry wash between 2 ridges, shady and quiet, a good spot to rest. He led the horse down, checking for tracks. None. They stopped under a stone shelf. He tied the horse and took off the saddle to let it cool. Asha slid down and leaned against the rock, wincing as she held her ankle. Eli crouched beside her, pulled a cloth from his pack, and tore it into strips. "Don't wrap it. You don't talk. I won't either." She gave a tiny nod. When he touched her foot, she stiffened but didn't pull away. He wrapped it tightly, not mean, but firm. Her skin was badly bruised. He didn't ask how long she'd been on it. He could guess. "You escaped," he said, not asking, just stating. She didn't answer right away. Then, traitors, 3 of them, drunk, got lazy by the river. "I ran." He kept rapping. "They chase you?" "They tried. I lost them in the rocks." "When?" 4 days. He tied the cloth with a knot and sat back. "Water?" she asked, voice dry. He handed her the canteen. She drank slowly, then wiped her mouth and gave it back. They sat in silence for a long time. Then she asked, "What are you doing out here? Looking for something?" He shook his head. "No, just not ready to stop." She looked at her hands, the dirt under her nails, the faded tattoo on her wrist, 3 black lines for family, clan, and spirit. She rubbed it like it didn't mean anything anymore. "You used to fight," she said. He breathed out through his nose. "Yeah, for who?" He turned his head a little. "Didn't matter then. Doesn't now." She didn't ask more. They stayed in the shade until late afternoon. She dozed a bit. He stood watch. Nothing moved, no riders, no dust. Just wind and rock. When it was time to go, she didn't ask where, and he didn't explain. There wasn't a plan, just moving forward, away from men who might be hunting her, away from places he never wanted to see again. That night, they stopped by a shallow ravine with dry grass and a trickle of creek water. Eli made a fire again. She helped this time, gathering brush and stacking twigs. She still didn't talk much, and neither did he. But when he gave her some jerky and a piece of bread, she said quietly, "I didn't mean it." About the child, he looked at her. She didn't look back. "I know," he said, then handed her the blanket. This time, she took it, lying near the fire, not close, but not at the edge anymore. That night, she slept with both eyes closed. Eli kept watch, like always, but not just for her now. And neither of them ran. At dawn, the fire was just ash and scattered coals. A thin line of smoke drifted into the pale morning air, caught by the wind. Asha woke before Eli, sitting up slowly, rubbing her ankle, pulling the blanket tighter. For a moment, she just watched the sky change colors behind the ridge. The light hit her face, showing how young she really was. Too young for the heavy look in her eyes. Eli opened his eyes a few minutes later. No sudden moves, just a quiet shift in breathing. Same routine: check the rifle, stretch his bad hand, roll to one side, sit up. He didn't speak, but Aisha saw his eyes go to her first, checking she was still there, still okay. Then to the horse, then the horizon. She helped gather firewood, a limp worse but not complaining. He saw her drag a small branch, jaw tight, sweat on her brow. When he reached for it, she held on a moment longer before letting go, pride mixed with tiredness. They ate quietly. Eli gave her half a smoked rabbit he'd caught the night before. She ate every bit carefully. They didn't need words. But Eli noticed something from the night before. She was settling in, not just physically, but mentally. Trust wasn't fully there, but suspicion wasn't growing anymore. Still, he knew there were questions she hadn't asked, and he had some too. They broke camp by mid-morning. Eli helped Asha onto the horse. Her ankle was no better, maybe worse. They took a slower path along the ridge, staying covered. He wasn't sure where they were going, just away from roads, towns, and men who might see Asha as something to trade. After an hour, she spoke. "Why didn't you take me up on what I said?" He looked ahead. Didn't want to. Most men would have. I ain't most men. She studied his scar, his stiff shoulders, but didn't push. Later, they passed an old campfire, blackened stones, broken wood, deep footprints. Asha tensed, pointing to the tracks. "Those are moccasins, but not mine." Eli crouched, touched the edge. 3 or 4 men, heavy, carrying stuff, passed through a day ago. She swallowed hard. "They followed me." Eli stood, scanning the ridge. "They're ahead now. If they circle back, we'll know. Will they come this way? If they're looking, maybe, but they won't expect us to move slow. We've got time." She looked at him. "Would you fight them?" "Yeah." That ended the talk. They camped by a cracked creek bed with scrub oak around. The water was low, but enough to wash and fill canteens. Eli let her soak her ankle in the cold stream. She sat with her skirt just above her knees, eyes on the trees, always watching the line between safe and dangerous. Eli sat nearby, peeling bark from a stick. After a while, he said, "You got anyone left? Tribe? Family?" She didn't answer at first. "They think I'm dead. You want to go back?" Another pause. "Not like this." She didn't explain, but her voice said it all. What was taken from her couldn't just be given back by walking home. Pride mattered. She wouldn't let them see her until she felt whole. Eli got that night. She helped make the fire. He gave her his blanket without a word and lay on the ground. She didn't argue, but sat by the fire a bit longer, watching him. After a while, she said quietly, "You were alone when you found me. You're still alone. I don't mind, but you keep looking back." "Habit," he said. She didn't say more, but shifted her sleeping spot closer to his. Just a foot. Not touching, not trusting, but closer. Eli stayed awake longer that night, thinking. Something had shifted, slow and quiet. She hadn't run, and now she was choosing to stay. They moved at first light, the land cold and quiet under a thin gray sky. Eli's horse walked slowly along the ridge, hooves crunching on stones. Asha sat upright, despite her ankle pain, gripping the saddle horn tighter when the path jolted. She was learning to ride without showing weakness. Eli didn't mention it but noticed. They were heading towards shallow canyons he knew from years ago, a place with no water, but good for hiding. He didn't tell her much, just chose it because if those traders were tracking, the canyons would let them wait and watch without being seen by mid-morning. The land got rockier, dry gullies and stone walls closing in. Asha broke the silence. "How do you lose those fingers?" Eli kept his eyes ahead. "Shot off. Vicksburg sniper hit two of us." "You were lucky." He nodded. "Other guy died slow. I didn't." She waited. "Ever go back east?" "No, nothing there for me." She didn't say more, but a few minutes later, she pointed to a cut in the ridge. "Good view up there. I could see smoke or movement." Eli stopped and looked at her. It was the first time she'd suggested anything. He nodded. "I'll climb it." She shook her head. "I will. You stay with the horse." He didn't like it, but understood she wanted to prove something. He helped her down, steadying her arm as she stepped onto the stone. She didn't pull away. He watched her limp up the slope, slower than she wanted, but steady. She crouched behind a boulder at the top and stayed a long time. Eli waited below, hand on his rifle, scanning the path behind. He didn't like staying still so long. It made him itchy, but she'd earned the chance to look. She came down, face calm. "Nothing out there." "Sure, I know what to look for." They kept going. By late afternoon, they found an old cattle trail winding through the canyon base, long abandoned, with dry dung and broken fence posts. Eli stopped by a shaded alcove in the rock for camp. It was hard to see from higher trails, and the wind wasn't as sharp. They built a fire in a crack between boulders to hide it. Asha took a strip of rawhide from her dress and started braiding her hair. Eli sat nearby, sharpening his knife on a stone. The air felt less tight, not relaxed, but less careful. She said, "The men who took me weren't the first, just the last." Eli looked at her, then back at his knife. "They came at night," she said. "I was getting firewood, supposed to be gone 10 minutes. It was 3 months before I saw the sky again." He didn't interrupt. "I escaped because one got drunk and left the gate unlocked. I ran barefoot, hid under a dead log for 2 days." She didn't want pity, just needed the truth to be real for someone else. Eli said, "They won't touch you again." She looked at him, voice low. "Would you kill for me?" "Yes." He said it plain, like telling the time. She watched him a moment, then nodded. "All right." Later, Eli set rabbit traps a few yards from camp wire loops, nothing loud. Asha helped tie one, her hands steadier now. They didn't talk much, but their movements were closer. When they sat by the fire, she was nearer, not touching, but the blanket stretched between them, not a wall anymore. She asked, "What'd you do before the war?" He thought a bit. "Worked mules with my dad, hauling freight in Arkansas." "What happened to him?" "Drank himself dead. I was 16. She didn't ask more, just stared into the fire, then said quietly, "You don't ask about me. The old stuff. Figured you'd say when you're ready." She nodded. "Maybe I'm ready now." He looked at her. She didn't speak again, but didn't look away either. She stayed by the fire that night. When the wind picked up, Eli gave her his coat. She took it, pulled it over her knees, and slept sitting up. Eli stayed awake longer, rifle across his lap, eyes on the stars above the canyon walls. They didn't have a destination, but she was still there. And so was he. The canyon air was chilly that morning, sinking into their bones. Eli woke to a sharp crack, something stepping on a branch. Not close, but not far. His hand grabbed the rifle before his eyes fully opened. He listened. Probably just a rabbit or deer. He breathed out slow and looked at Asha. She was awake. His coat still around her shoulders, eyes on the canyon wall where the sound came from. She looked at him, calm but alert. That wasn't wind. No, he said, standing, but it wasn't boots either. They stayed low that morning, packing camp fast, leaving no trace, no coals, no footprints. Asha helped tie the saddle. Even with her bad ankle, she was moving better, limping less. The swelling was down some, not perfect, but she wasn't stuck. They climbed out of the canyon on a narrow game trail Eli knew from years back between cracked sandstone walls. He kept his rifle ready. Every 30 steps, he looked back. It was too quiet. Even the birds had stopped dead at the top. They hit open ground. Wind blew hard across the flat, slow hills. Brush, a dirt road far off. Asha squinted at it, then looked away. Too exposed, she said. He agreed. They went east, along a lower ridge with brush and rocks for cover. Around noon, they stopped. In a dry basin with a small stream, Eli let the horse drink. Asha took off her moccasins and dipped her feet in the cold water. He saw the relief on her face. "Do you believe in anything?" she asked after a bit. He didn't answer right away. "Not much. Not God? No. Spirits? No." She looked at him. "Ever lose anyone?" He nodded. "My brother in Georgia bayonet through the chest." She didn't. "Ask more." "What about you?" he asked. Her jaw tightened. "My little sister. They killed her when they took me. Think they meant to scare me. It worked." She said it like it had been waiting to come out. They moved on by mid-afternoon, staying low and quiet. Eli doubled back once to check for followers. No tracks, no movement, but his gut stayed tight. Too much silence, too much open sky. It felt like the world was holding its breath. They stopped near dusk under a big rock outcropping shaped like a broken spine. The fire was small, hidden between stones. Asha cooked what they had: a squirrel from a snare, roasted, and some ground corn. Her hands were steady now, not jumping or pausing. She asked, "Why didn't you leave me?" Eli ate slowly. "I've left plenty. Didn't feel right. This time. Because I'm weak? No, because you were alone." She studied him. "You feel responsible for me now? Do you want me to?" "No," she said, then quieter. "Not unless it's your choice." "It is." That settled something in her. Later, as the fire died, Asha lay closer, not touching, but close enough to feel his warmth. Eli sat upright, eyes on the stars. "Tomorrow," he said, "we head to Elk Creek. There's a half-burned cabin roof's caved in, but the chimney's solid. Good for a few nights." She nodded. "You've been there?" "Years ago, hunting bounties." "Anyone with you?" "No." "Then why stay now?" he thought. "Because I don't want to ride past you." She didn't speak, but when she lay down, her hand rested lightly against his side. Not grabbing, just touching. Eli didn't move away. That silence meant more than words. The air was damp with mist when they reached the burned cabin at Elk Creek. Charred beams leaned sideways, one wall gone, roof half missing, but the stone chimney stood strong. Eli tied the horse by a broken fence post, checked the area for tracks. Nothing. The place was dead, had been for years. Asha stepped through what used to be a doorway, her eyes moving over the ruins' burned floorboards. A tipped-over kettle, one lone boot, a melted child's doll in the corner. She knelt by it, staring for a long time. Eli gave her space. She didn't cry, but her shoulders sank. He walked to the back, where a partial wall and slanted roof offered cover. He cleared ash and debris with his boot, laid out their gear. The ground was uneven but dry. "This'll do," he said. Asha stood in the middle of the room, arms crossed. "Who were they?" "Don't know," Eli said. "Came through years back. Saw smoke from miles off. Could have been bandits, cavalry, or just hunger." She nodded. "They left everything. Had nothing to take. They spent the afternoon fixing what they could." Eli propped a beam with a branch. Asha stacked stones to block the wind. Her limp was barely there now, ankle healing slow but steady. She kept moving, didn't sit unless she had to. Eli watched from a few steps away. She didn't ask for help, but he offered his knife, some rope, a hand to steady the beam. Mostly she worked alone, like she needed to prove she didn't need saving. By sunset, they had a decent shelter. Not warm, not safe, but hidden and dry. Eli lit a fire in the hearth. Smoke rose cleanly up the chimney. It felt odd being inside walls after months. Asha stood by the doorway. Ever live in a place like this? He shook his head. At a shack by a cotton field dirt floor, no chimney, worse than this. You left it, burned it when my mom died. Nothing to stay for. She looked at him. I had a place longhouse. By the mountains, warm, loud, always food cooking. You miss it? Yes. She didn't say more. After eating jerky and cornmeal mush. Asha pulled a small bundle from her pack, unwrapping a cloth to show an obsidian pendant shaped like a sharp feather. From my sister, she said. She made it before they took. U.S. I wore it until a trader ripped it off. Found it in their rags when I escaped. Eli held it light but rough. I don't wear it now, but I keep it close. He handed it back. She wrapped it up and tucked it away. That night, by the fading fire, Asha lay close to Eli, their shoulders touching under the blanket. Would you stay here? She asked quietly. He didn't answer right away. It's quiet, but too close. To the old cattle road. We be seen eventually. I know when it's too quiet. She closed her eyes. How long will we keep running? As long as we have to. Would you keep running if I stop? He looked at her, firelight on her face. No. If you stop, I stop. Her hand found his under the blanket, fingers cold but light. Then, I'll think about stopping, she whispered. Eli didn't move or speak. Outside, wind rattled loose stones. Inside, they stayed still together, not just hiding, but choosing. The next morning was quiet. Not the scary kind, but calm. Inside the ruined cabin, Eli stirred first, moving slowly so he wouldn't wake Asha. Her hand was near his blanket, up to her chin, breathing soft. Light from the chimney slit cast shadows on the burned floor. Eli checked the traps by the tree line. One rabbit, already cold. He cleaned it behind the cabin, hands moving from memory, but slower today, like he was really there. When Asha woke, she didn't jump. She sat up, adjusted his coat around her shoulders, and met his eyes without pulling away. No distance in her look anymore, just alertness. He gave her the cooked meat in cloth. Eat. She did. No words. They ate by the fire, elbows almost touching. Afterward, she said, ever think of stopping for good? Sometimes. What stopped you before? He looked at the fire. No reason to. Her hands rested in her lap. And now? I don't know, he said. Then, maybe. She nodded like that made sense. They walked the cabin's edge together, Asha moving easier, ankles stronger. They worked quietly, clearing branches, stacking stones, fixing the roof with creek bed. Wood. It wasn't about making a home, not yet, but it was something work done side by side. No pressure, just doing. At midday, Asha took Eli's spyglass and climbed the ridge. When she came back, her face was different, tense. Riders 3 or 4, moving slow, west to east. Eli stood. How far? Half a day, maybe more. He checked the sun. Could pass by or be tracking. She nodded. They're not rushing. That's worse. They packed in under 10 minutes bedroll, food, flint, rifle, canteens. Eli saddled the horse, checked it twice, helped Asha up. North, he said. Hard land, less trail. They won't follow easy. She held tight as they climbed the ridge into a canyon from his bounty days. They rode quietly, only speaking to point out rocks or switch paths. Wind lifted dust like smoke. They camped that night at a narrow pass between red rock walls. No fire, eating cold meat under one blanket. Asha asked, think they're still following me? Could be, Eli said. Or maybe nothing. We don't take chances. They're white men. He nodded. Probably. Her jaw tightened. I won't go back. I'd rather die out here. You won't. She looked at him. What if they find us? I shoot first. She didn't question it. That night, under the stars with no roof, Asha rested her head on his shoulder. I don't want to keep running forever. Eli stayed still. Then we find somewhere they won't come. Where's that? He looked into the dark canyon. where no one's looking for anything but quiet. She nodded and closed her eyes. What the story hadn't said yet, but was clear now, was they were building something. Not just escaping, but ending the need to escape. If the land and time gave them space, it might be about staying, not just next to each other, but together, not to pay a debt, but because neither had walked away. They woke before sunrise, the canyon air cold enough to numb fingers. Eli moved stiffly, rolling the blanket. Asha stood tall, scanning the path they'd ridden. Her face was tight, focused, ready. The fear was there, but buried under purpose. Eli checked the horse's hooves and saddle. Asha tied her braid and helped pack, moving in sync, quick and wordless. They couldn't stay long. If riders followed into the canyon, they'd be trapped. They rode east through a narrow cut between cliffs. Eli looked back. No movement, no sound, just wind and hoof echoes. After an hour, they hit open ground, low hills, dusty brush, endless dry earth. Far off, pine trees marked a hunting hollow Eli remembered from his scouting days, back when he wore a badge for a county gone now. He hadn't thought of that time in years and didn't want to. "We head there," he said, pointing to the trees. "Water, cover." Asha nodded. No questions doubt. By midday, they reached the grove. A thin stream ran through, barely enough to drink and wash. The ground was soft with pine needles. They tied the horse in the shade, checked for signs of others. Nothing. No prints. No ash. Safe for now. They made a small camp, fire low, surrounded by stones. Asha gathered branches while Eli fixed a saddle strap. He watched her limp nearly gone. No more constant glances over her shoulder. After eating, she sat cross-legged by the fire and asked, "What did you do after the war? Before this?" He stared at the flames. "Hunted men," he said. Her face didn't change. "For money?" He nodded. "Bounties, killers, robbers. Sometimes it didn't matter. Just a name and a reward. You killed them?" "Some. Others I brought in." "Most didn't get far." She looked at the fire. "Is that who you are?" He shook his head. "Not anymore." "Then who are you now?" He glanced at her. "Don't know yet." She held his gaze. "You're not a hunter or soldier. You're not running. That's something." He didn't argue. She leaned closer. "You saved me." He shook his head. "No, I didn't shoot you. That's not saving. You stayed. You still are." Eli didn't speak, but his jaw relaxed. She wasn't wrong. That evening, as shadows grew and the air cooled, they heard movement, not animals, but hooves and low voices. Eli grabbed his rifle and crouched at the tree line. Asha joined him behind a log. Two riders moved slowly across the basin. Not toward them, but close, one in a long coat, one with a red scarf, both with rifles. Asha whispered, "Them." Eli nodded. "Could be. Do we run?" He watched them. They kept moving south. "No. We stay low, let them go." They waited until the riders were gone, then longer. When it was dark, they let the fire die to coals and sat close under the trees, sharing the blanket, watching the sky turn black between branches. Asha turned to him. "When will it end?" Eli looked at her, then the sky. "When you say it does. I want to, but I don't know how." He nodded. "We'll figure it out." She rested her head on his chest, and he put his arm around her without pausing. They didn't talk again that night, but there was no more running in the dark. Whatever came next, they'd face it together, not as strangers or fugitives, but as two people who chose to stay. The next morning was warm, the sun gentle for the first time in weeks. Eli stood at the grove's edge, hands on his belt, scanning the horizon. No riders, no dust, just wind through pines and the stream's murmur. For the first time in a long while, the tightness in his chest eased, not gone, but lighter, not dread, just quiet. Asha was by the stream, washing her hands slowly, sleeves up, hair tied back, face clean. She didn't look like someone hiding. Anymore she looked steady, present, deciding. She walked to him, her pack tied neatly, not like someone ready to run, but someone ready for something to last. "I think I'm done," she said. He looked at her, trying to read if she meant today or forever. She clarified, running, hiding, flinching. "You sure?" She nodded. "I am." They didn't need to talk about what it meant. Eli understood. If she stopped, he stopped. It felt final. Not just a rest, but a landing. He looked at the trail, then the grove. There's a place 3 days from here, northwest in the hills. No roads, no towns, just an old mill and a half-collapsed barn. Owner died years back. It's still standing, safe enough, with water and good soil. Roof needs work, but it's out of the way. Nobody goes there unless they want nothing. She thought about it. Do you want to live there? Not alone. He waited. She looked at him, then walked to his side, resting her hand on his arm. That was her answer. They packed slowly, no rush. Asha helped with the saddle, her movement sure. She belonged where she stood. As they walked the horse out of the grove, Eli glanced back at the stream, the fire ring, the spot where they'd stood close without fear. He didn't say goodbye. Some places don't need it. They rode northwest. No marked trail, just land. Eli remembered from long ago. The day was wide and quiet, no pursuit, no riders, no smoke. Aisha carried the rifle sometimes, slung across her back. Eli taught her to aim, to breathe steady before shooting. She learned fast. At night, they shared the fire, took turns cooking and watching stars in silence. One night, over a pan of boiled beans, Asha said, "You're not a hunter anymore?" "No." "You're not a drifter either?" "No." "Then what are you?" The fire lit her face, her scarred wrist, her tilted head. "Yours," he said. Her eyes softened, no smile, but close. The 3rd day brought them to the hill country. The barn was gray and sagging, one side split, but standing. The millstone was cracked, the door crooked, but inside was dry, quiet, waiting. No signs of recent use, just dust and pine. They didn't talk about next steps, just started. Eli cleared the floor. Asha hauled broken shutters out. She found a rusted shovel and dug a trench to keep rainwater from the wall. He fixed the door hinge. She swept debris. At night, they spread blankets by the hearth and lit the first fire of their new life. Asha leaned into him, head on his chest. "Do you regret not shooting me?" He didn't answer right away, just held her close. "No, that's the one thing I'd never doubted." She closed her eyes. Me neither. The wind howled outside, but inside was warmth, breath, stillness. No one was coming. No one was chasing. They'd arrived.